What?
It's time now for My Two Favorite Librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.
Hi, this is My Two Favorite Librarians. I'm Denise Corey.
I'm Chantel Taylor, and today we're talking about Indigenous Peoples Day.
So, Indigenous Peoples Day was actually yesterday, but it seemed like a good day to talk about it. And I'm sad because they're not going to be doing all of the things outside that they normally do. So usually there is a ceremony out front of the library, and then they continue on to Victoria Park, and there is dancing, and it's beautiful and moving. And this year everything will be online.
Hopefully
everything else in the world.
They'll record, because they're doing something virtually on the 21st.
I believe they are, yeah.
So hopefully they'll have it saved that you can watch it after.
One thing that I have done, though, is post a reading list to the Cumberland Public Library's Facebook page of Indigenous Reads. And that was compiled by Indigenous Affairs. And I believe CBC helped with that, too. And they've got it divided into different sections. So there's adult and children and poetry, which is really interesting. So I would urge you to take a look at that list.
Do they have like fiction and nonfiction?
No.
Okay.
But poetry was pulled out separately. Interesting. So one thing I think it's important to say from my place of privilege, because I am not an Indigenous person, is that it's really important to see representations of a variety of people within our literature. So seeing people who look like you in media, in literature, makes the people feel included in society.
Yes. Yeah.
And it reinforces positive views of the people that seeing yourself is important.
Yes. Yeah.
And for people like us who are white, it's also important for us to see members of other groups and see, like, especially representations that aren't all negative.
Yes. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. So I think it's really important for us to read books by Indigenous authors and read books within their voice so that we get a better understanding of Indigenous peoples.
Yes.
Yes. I knew you would agree with me.
On that note, while everyone is educating themselves about Black Lives Matter, this is a great time to also start educating yourself about Indigenous peoples and how we can all be better allies to their community as well.
Especially as, you know, I'm not going to call out any specific politician, but there was one politician who said that systemic racism doesn't exist in Canada. Oh, yes, it does. Oh, yes. Look at generations of people put into residential schools, their language destroyed, their families destroyed. What is that if not systemic racism and all of the fallout from it?
So in preparing for this, of course, we're looking at books to recommend that you read. And so we're looking at book lists to compile like books that we have. And I went through a couple of lists and I was like, oh, I need to do an order because we're missing a lot of things. Mm-hmm. So as we're going through for our Black Lives Matter and making sure that we do have different color faces in our picture books, and it's not even that. It's boys and girls. I have to make sure I'm buying just as much boy stuff as girl stuff because as a girl, I'm looking for cool girl things.
Yeah, but, you know.
But I'm a girl and we can't have the whole collection girls. Let's get back on the topic.
And I also disagree with your gendering of books, but okay.
But no, seriously, yes, you need to see people of everything.
Yes, it's important. But I don't think...
I'm not saying little boys can't read books with little girls in them. I'm saying I need to have books with little boys in them too.
And we need to have books that represent
everything.
A lot of people.
We're getting off topic.
We are. It's easy to do.
So I'm doing an order. Mm-hmm. So some of the things I was looking at this morning, again, while I'm educating myself, 21 Things You May Not Know About the Indian Act by Bob Joseph, which is number one on a lot of people. I'm showing it to Denise like I'm doing a presentation.
But I actually haven't read that book, so I'm interested to hear about it.
So I went through it this morning, and it sort of breaks down the Indian Act into different categories, and then, why this was done. So did you know it was illegal for Indigenous peoples to be in pool halls? Because they should be industrious and not having leisure time like white people.
What? Why? I don't understand when
we
rules are made.
can't even.
Yeah.
It was also interesting to see how disgusted a lot of the Jesuit priests were with the power of women within a lot of Indigenous communities. And so it's very interesting to see how Indigenous women have become, and I'm saying that from the 2020 perspective, having read things, the most vulnerable population in Canada.
Yeah, they really are vulnerable. There's a lot of missing and murdered Indigenous women. It's distressing and heartbreaking.
But there were so many. So if you were a man and you married a non-Indigenous woman, you kept your status. Mm-hmm. She also could get status. But if a Indigenous woman married a non-Indigenous man,
she lost her status. And her children lost their status. If
a woman left a reservation because of domestic abuse, she could lose her house almost immediately.
That's ridiculous.
It's amazing how they were stripped of almost everything.
Mm-hmm. So it's a double whammy in terms of loss of power because, the white colonialists took the power of the Indigenous people, and then they also took the power of the women.
Well, and they took a lot of power of everything else, but that was an interesting section because we can really look at Indigenous women as being the most vulnerable.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. So the inconvenience...
But yet, some of the strongest women I know.
Yeah.
But that's, speaking from the time of 2020. So perhaps, these women have grown up and taken power back.
So also on my list, The Inconvenient Indian by Thomas King, First Peoples in Canada by Alan McMillan and Eldon Yellowhorn, Price Paid by Bev Solaris, Our Stories by various artists, which is, I think, poetry and different articles representing different Indigenous populations from across Canada. I also have some children's stuff.
Can I talk about a couple of my favorite Indigenous Canadian authors?
Yes.
Eden Robinson, whom I've mentioned a couple times in this radio show. Back in February, I read her Son of a Trickster book. And then in May, I read the second book in the trilogy, Trickster Drift. I am waiting anxiously for the third book in the trilogy. I love these books. It's a coming-of-age story about Jared. He's navigating trying to be a teen, trying to keep his family together, and then finding out that his biological dad is the trickster. And so there's lots of magic and mythology, but also some teen angst. Lots of things in that book. I enjoyed the second book more than the first, which is not usually
Is it adult or YA?
Different libraries put them in different places, so I would say it's adult. Somebody else might say it's young adult. I do feel like I should go back and read Monkey Beach by her, which I haven't read. It was a Giller finalist years ago, and I think I would really probably enjoy it based on reading the two books in the Trickster trilogy. Also, an author I love who is Canadian and Indigenous is Richard Wagamese, who unfortunately passed away back in 2017. He was Ojibwa from Ontario and best known for his novel Indian Horse. And I don't know, did you see the movie Indian Horse?
No, I don't think so. You showed it here for one of our...
I did. I showed it for Canadian Film Day a couple of years ago. Really good, really good. And I've enjoyed some of his other books. He's won several awards. He published 16 books, but 2 of them were posthumously, which is kind of sad. Children's books.
Okay. So I don't know if anybody remembers, but a couple of years ago, Alan Sillaboy was here with his Thundermaker art installation. He was here in the Amherst Library as well as in Spring Hill, wasn't he?
Yep.
And would you just had him in the 2 locations?
Yeah, it needed a lot of space for that art installation. It was really cool, though.
He toured all across Nova Scotia in different libraries, and it was really cool. We had schools in for kids to go through. It was amazing. So he has a couple of books that he's written. Thundermaker, based on his art installation. I'm assuming it came out afterwards. And also Wolverine and the Little Thunder, an eel fishing story. Another author I found was David Robertson. He's from Manitoba. He's like a graphic artist. So When We Were Alone, I feel like it was a Governor General.
Oh, I was just looking at that. I thought, it's a graphic novel, right?
I think it's a children's book.
I
think it's a picture book.
Maybe I'm thinking of a different book.
It's got 2 little girls on the front cover.
No, thinking of a different book. Sorry.
So When We Were Alone, Betty, the Helen Betty Osborne story, which is about a woman who is trying to be a teacher. And again, she's murdered. It's really, it looks really sad.
Oh.
And Sugar Falls, which is a story about the residential schools. So those are all by David Robertson. Not Your Princess, Voices of Native American Women, which is edited by Lisa Charlie Boy and Mary Beth Leatherdale. And I just have a little description here. It says it's a collection of poems, essays, interviews, and art that combine to express the experience of being a Native woman. And also The Marrow Thieves, which I think was a Canada Reads.
It was a Canada Reads.
By Sherry Dimeline.
Yeah, I want to read The Marrow Thieves. It sounds really good. There's so many books.
We've just mentioned a few.
Yeah.
And we've got lots more. We will also take suggestions for books of any kind. Mm-hmm. But certainly, again, as white people, we don't want to miss things that we should have in our collection, especially for like Nova Scotian
Indigenous heritage.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's important that we celebrate the heritage of our Nova Scotia Indigenous communities. So, I'm going to give you an update on what I'm reading.
Yes.
I have finished 42 books. None of them is Les Mis. And I've completed 30 of the 50 Pop Sugar reading challenges.
That's really good.
But since we're recording this on Thursday, by the time this airs on Monday, I expect I will have a couple more books done because my plan for the weekend is to laze on my deck and read books.
So I have been reading again, which is very exciting. And my favorite book right now is called Wolf Gone Wild by Juliet Cross, which is a lovely paranormal romance. It's very sweet. If you've never done paranormal romance before and you've wanted to try, this might be a fantastic stepping stone into paranormal romance. It's not overwhelming as far as the world building goes. There's no angst. It's very sweet and nice and lovely.
And you can see us talking more about that book and the other books we're reading on our podcast, which is on the My Two Favorite Librarians Facebook page. We would love for you to comment on there and tell us what you're reading or suggest things that the library might want to purchase or just talk about great books that you love. One of the things that I'm really missing about the library being closed is not having those awesome book discussions with people who are coming in. So I would like to have them, I guess, digitally because everything is digitally now.
Also for Summer Reading Club, you can still get your Summer Reading Club packages for kids. They'll be available all summer. You can give us a call at 902-667-2549, and we will either send them to you in the mail, or you can add them to a grab-and-go order, and hopefully we'll be open for Holds pickup, and then you can just come in and pick them up.
Yeah, the Forefathers Library is waiting for plexiglass for us to reopen. And
the other way you can get them, because I just said the phone number, is emailing us at information@cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca. So you can phone us, you can email us. No registration for teens. Just email us and we'll send you out the teen flyer. And no registration for adults. You can just start sending us the books you're reading.
Yep, every book that you read as an adult, you can put in a ballot for. And before we were fussy and said it had to be a library book, but now we are less fussy because everybody doesn't necessarily have library books at home. However, you do have to have a library card with us, which we will give you for free.
And if you want more information about Summer Reading Club, you can check on our website. There's a heading on the menu that says SRC 2020. You can find that on our website, which is, Denise?
Oh my goodness. www.cumberlandpubliclibraries.ca. And we're also still doing borrow by mail for every resident of Cumberland County. If you would like us to mail things to you, it would be books, movies, television shows, jigsaw puzzles. If it fits in a mailer bag and we have it for loan, we will send it to you. What are we talking about next week, Chantel?
We just went over this list. Are we talking finally about space books?
Books set in outer space, yeah. I'm very much looking forward to you talking about romances set in outer space.
They are amazingly bonkers, let me tell you.
So follow us on our socials. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, and we also have the extra Facebook group of my two favorite librarians. Share things with us. Go on to our Facebook and see all of the fun videos Julie is doing with activities for the kids. So many activities.
Posting every day. There'll be different things happening. Scavenger hunts are on Monday. We're still having Once Upon a Time virtually on Wednesdays. I believe there's Tongue Twister Tuesdays. All kinds of things are happening. So you can watch those at your leisure. They'll be available all summer.
Yeah. I think she's going to be building bird feeders.
I did see there was bread and birdseed in the kitchen.
And peanut butter.
Yes.
So we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
My two favorite librarians. Brought to you by Copper Tree Boutique in Dales Grand Market, located in beautiful, historic downtown Amherst.